mishmash. Mishmash memories. It's not really easy to write these kind of things last minute, so excuse my grammar. Hopefully I can get back into it. Okay. I'm not sure it's going to be as short as yours, Nancy, but
It's okay.
there we go. In loving memory of my dear sister Co, departing way too soon before her time. These are my random memories. My last visit with Co was in August on our way back from Nancy's. Co, I'm so glad you got a chance to meet Corey again and meet his lovely wife, Sirnush. While you were still who you were. On that visit, we reminisced about the days we spent in our apartment at 1015 Old Post Road in Mamaroneck, New York. Co was happily reminding me at that visit in August when we would use old Cool Whip containers and saran wrap to hunt for flies for our chameleon in the apartment windowed stairwells. Those were simpler days back then. We would ride our bikes to McDonald's with the original golden arches and red and white tiles for their shakes, burgers, and fries. We always look forward to lightning storms when we would lie on our backs and watch the storm through the big picture window in the apartment while eating Oreos. Do you remember that?
I do.
I still think of those Oreos when there are lightning storms. In the spring after the rain, we'd sometimes make mud pies in the area Mom would plant morning glories under our window.
Hollyhocks and
Yes.
yes, I remember that too.
The fall brings me back to memories of those endless Halloween candy runs back to our apartment to empty our bags and go back out to doors we hadn't knocked on yet. Sorting and negotiating candy trades, pennies overflowing our UNICEF boxes. Younger people may not know what those UNICEF boxes are, but that's one of the things we used to do. But they're living in an apartment building with Halloween, knocking on all those doors. That was awesome as a kid. This is where it brings up a little. I remember selling candy with Co. We went to Orienta Point because those are the neighborhoods where people have more money to spend on candy school fundraisers than the rest of the Orienta Garden apartment buildings we lived in. Co had a mischievous side. I have many memories I won't go into, but one of those is when we stole little Kitty from the deer hunter's yard adjacent to our school. The guy used to hang hides from his deer hunting on the trees, and there's nothing worse to nature-loving children than seeing that. So we didn't feel comfortable with those kitten litter that was there. Somehow she crawled in where he hung his hides to snatch one of the litter. We saved one out of all of them behind the wooden fence. And we went and we told Mom we saved her from the Chinese restaurant alley where she would surely have been cooked. Not sure whether Mom really bought that, but she didn't ask any further questions. We all loved animals. Our dad wasn't quite as enthusiastic as we were, so there are a few that we hid initially from him. The rabbit Pete, I think little Kitty was one, but he loved them when he saw them. The James Bond movies we went to see with our dad had a great deal of influence on Co and I. When visiting our grandparents, we would lie under their piano and create secret codes in one of the many black binder books Grandpa would buy from us for Woolworths. Under that piano, we would also turn Dad's old flight maps into our spy mission maps, or browse through the gory crime magazines my grandmother had as part of her Washington Post reporter days. In the attic, we would take turns tying each other up and try to see who could escape fastest. I don't know whether you were ever up there. At our house on Rushmore, we created our own hiding place in the large closet under the stairs behind all of Nancy's ballerina costumes. She had lots of them too, tutus all over the place. It made for a nice hiding place, and we had a stash of cookies in case we wanted to pretend running away. As a family, we had a few different types of road trips, hunting for gemstones. Nancy could probably remember the names of places we went better than I do. I was very young. Beach trip to Montauk, educational trips to Jamestown and Williamsburg, right when I was studying that in elementary school. Flying to one of the islands off of Massachusetts, bringing back lobsters for dinner. Traveling to Vermont or Canada to ski. On one of those trips, Co and I went cross-country skiing alone in the woods and ended up getting stuck in a deep ditch part of the trail. I was too small to get out, but she was able to climb out and get help. That's how I remember her, a strong and protective older sister. In '72, Co and I took our first big plane ride to England, where our father was on sabbatical. My mom got us up earlier than we would have liked to sightsee. Mark Spitz had broken records with his 7 golds, and the British women were going crazy over him. The most fun I had on those trips is when Co and I were allowed at 12 and 13 to take the tube to get to a store every night. We'd get a Coke and vanilla ice cream to bring back to the flat to make ice cream floats. On one of those trips, we went to a bookstore, found this great stuffed spider, and I remember us dangling the spider out of our Harley Street flat to the apartment below, passing notes back and forth to residents we never met.
Mm-hmm.
Those vivid memories, along with spying with other apartment building residents with our binoculars across the street. We explored the wonders of nature together with Nancy, looking for morels and other flora and fauna in the woods with Mummy, forging a connection to the natural world that has stayed with Co, Nancy, and I throughout our lives. When we weren't posing for Mom on those candid poses she requested, we would watch our mom take photos that she'd later organize into slideshows for our classrooms. Any strays that crossed our paths or became family for as long as allowed. Many cats, dogs, raccoons, canary. Pete was the canary. No, it was David, I think. I'm not sure you were there then. And many others that probably Nancy remembers. I'm sure Jess has many memories of all the strays that Co brought in. That weren't just cats. Moving to 1051 Rushmore Avenue to one house from the water brought other happy memories. We only had one neighbor, the Singers. In front of us was the Beach Point Club, and behind us was Oriented Club. We didn't belong to either club, but Co and I used to roam their grounds, collect clay pigeons from their beach, or pick up all the spare tennis balls while walking the dogs. Our house, built in 1901, was the carriage house to that house. The Singers had the perfect playground for young kids, a wonderful sandy, rocky beach they allowed us to play on whenever we wanted. Co and I would go over there to climb in the rocks every day when we were young. We'd hunt in the tide pools, swim and snorkel while our mom dove, and hunt for horseshoe crabs. Sometimes Nancy would take all 3 of us on the Singer sailfish, sail off from their beach and intentionally try to capsize it to challenge us and for the pure excitement. I loved that. That was so much fun. Co loved storms, Oreo storms. The storms near the water were even more exciting than the Oreo cookie ones in the apartment. Huge waves would wash over the Singer's rock wall and flood the street and our backyard. After particularly violent storms, Co and I would sit on the Singer's rock wall together, eating hot dogs served by Mrs. Singer while watching boat wrecks being pulled off their beach after escaping their Long Island Sound moorings. Were you there too? Memories are weird. That was really nice though. So when those storms came in the fall with all those leaves, our other favorite activity was to don our high rain boots and race leaves down to the end of the street. There were a considerable amount of trees on the club grounds, and Co and I felt it was our civic duty to clear all the leaves from the street drains to alleviate the flooding. Just a fun thing to do for kids. We didn't have Xboxes back then, and we were just outside playing all the time. The Orienta side of our house had a decrepit storage house adjacent to our garage where a large family of raccoons lived in the attic. Co taught me how to climb the pine closest to our garage so we could get on its roof and throw kibble at the raccoons, poking their heads out of the roof. Occasionally, we'd drag the hose up there to let them drink from it. Eventually, with the amount of raccoons that lived off the beach club garbage, various babies would infiltrate our lives. Mom brought the first one home that had been pushed out of a tree and was still blind. We named it Tyler, and it lived in Co's room in a cage, but more often he was probably sleeping with her in her bed or tearing out the mattress underneath her bed. Tyler was still a baby when our kidnapped little kitty was still a kitten. After imprinting on Tyler, little kitty never learned how to meow very well, and she sometimes tried to eat her food with her paws. The second one, Tippecanoe, Co and I found. It had been crying all night, but we didn't recognize the sound as a raccoon's cry. It was different than our other raccoons' cry. When it continued into the morning, we went to investigate where the sound was coming from. We found the baby bug-infested, shivering, and still blind while hugging the bottom of the tree it fell out of. We knew the process by then: clean him up, get him on a heating pad, feed cottage cheese. You can see the pictures of them. Mom taught us well how to care for strays. She embedded this love for animals early on and need to care for the ones that wouldn't have been able to survive on their own. Co continued this throughout her life. Life wasn't easy for Co in high school. I was 17 before when she came out to me. I was on a ladder hanging Christmas ornaments with her as she told me nonchalantly that she was gay. Unbeknown to me, she was already experiencing physical assaults from kids in and out of school. Looking back at that time, I'm sure she was very nervous how I would react. I don't remember what I told her, but I'm sure she was relieved when she was shown nothing but love and acceptance for who she was for me and our family. She seemed a little bit happier that Christmas. I'm sure there's a weight lifted off of her. As time passed and she was openly dating, holiday dinners were different. When we found our grandmother wasn't as accepting, she was told if Co's girlfriends weren't allowed for Thanksgiving or dinner at our house, where we traditionally ate at our grandparents, we would celebrate those dinners at our house. Grandma and Grandpa were welcome to come, and they did. Co was brave to come out and face such discrimination so long, way before it was more socially accepted. Much later, after she graduated, she told me of a letter she received from a former classmate. It was a woman who divorced that finally acknowledged her true self. She wrote how she looked back at how brave Co was to come out, and despite the backlash she was subjected to. It was a wonderful validation. Co was very proud to tell me. I was very proud of her. We drifted apart from the distance. I'm in Maine, she was in New York, but Co came to my sons, Corey and Tyler's birthdays when they were young, and we were able to invite whoever we wanted instead of their friends, because we were parents and we could do that. Thank you for that, Co, for coming. My dear sister, you touched all our lives with your love, courage, and unyielding spirit. Your laughter and warmth will forever remain in our hearts. As we bid you farewell, we know that your love will live on in our hearts, in the beauty of the world around us and the random memories we hold dear. You will be deeply missed, but your spirit will always be with us.
Yes.